Hey everybody, we're going to talk a little bit about your research paper. I'm going to show you how to do some of these things. A lot of this should be familiar from English 101, but maybe it's been a while. Anyway, so you should first take a good look at the instructions for this final response. I've got them up here too. Read these carefully. You've got your due date. You've got lots of time. You've got nothing to do this week for me except for write this paper, and then you've got some time next week while we're doing Paradise Lost to revise. This is the last paper that you've got to write. You do still have to take the final exam, and you'll have a discussion post next week with Paradise Lost and things like that. And also, you'll see that you have an optional discussion post this week if you want to post about your topic and get some feedback from me, or you could respond to each other too if you'd like. Just quickly, a couple important details. This is a research paper. It has a research component. I've slimmed it down a bit. You only need about 2 sources to back up your argument. They do need to be scholarly though, but I also recognize that you're working from home. So I'll show you how to use the library's databases that you can access from home. And I posted some links for you to understand how to do that. Or you can just use Google as long as you're using sources that are reputable. And I've posted another link to show you how to kind of figure out if things are reputable or not. The big things that you want to avoid though are web sources by people who you don't necessarily trust or know what they're talking about. So no blogs, don't take other students' papers or other students' presentations that might have been uploaded, nothing like that. Don't trust them, trust yourself. And also you want to avoid citing things like SparkNotes or eNotes or things like that. Those are really formulaic, pre-programmed answers that are really universal, and they don't really have much innovation to them. So even if they do contribute to what you're trying to say, you might want to find them someplace else. Find somebody else saying it in a more detailed or a more elaborate fashion. But otherwise, this is just like your other papers that you've written. You want to make an argument about one of the texts. And any text from the class which you haven't already written about in one of your other 2 papers. So you're trying to find other arguments that help support yours. You don't want to steal anybody's argument. You want to make your own and use other people's work to help you back that up. So you're close reading, you're quoting from the text, and you're quoting these other sources to help you too. And then, you have a works cited page, and I've included a link about how to do one of those, and hopefully you've done one before, and you have your in-text citations. So I have links for that stuff. If you have any questions with any of that, let me know, and I can help you work through it. So I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to show you what this example might look like in the research. So the example that I have in the outline for your assignment is margarine Kemp. So because I'm doing this as an example, you can't use this argument, or you can't change the argument just a little bit. You have to kind of avoid this as the core of what you want to write about. So let's say that I want to argue that Marjorie Kemp is not a mystic. In fact, she has postpartum depression. That's my thesis. So let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen with you. I'm sharing a blank screen with you, a blank document. So my thesis is going to be Marjorie Kemp, despite her vast spiritual knowledge and her visions, was not a mystic. In fact, she suffered from postpartum depression, and her visions were a part of that ailment. That's going to be my thesis. All right, so I need to do a couple things. One, I need to go and I need to talk about Marjorie Kemp, right? So I need to go to the text, and I need to find the passages that I'm thinking about that illustrate that. So you can think about those passages at the beginning when she talks about it feels like she's being possessed by demons. Maybe that's the part of the text that you want to quote, and identify that it comes right after the birth of her child. All right, so we got a thesis. We know the part of the text that we want to talk about. So now I need to find 2 to 3 sources. So I'm going to go to Google, and Let's see, I'll find one first. Let's just Google Marjorie Kemp, see what comes up. We've got Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a good source, but trade secret, Wikipedia always gives you a list of good sources that they use to write this article. So I already took a look ahead of time. So I would kind of read about this, see if I had any ideas, or see if it helps me at all. Then you can go down to their references, to their works cited, and see if there's anything that you have access to that it links you to. So all of these little buttons, all of these little link buttons that I'm circling there, they tend to send you to a website, and you should be able to read that source. So let's see. There was one in particular that I wanted to show you. On the birth of Marjorie Kemp's last child, which, if you remember, is in fact when she starts having these visions. So look at this. It sends us to this source. Notes and documents on the birth of Marjorie Kemp's last child. And look at that. It actually comes from somebody from UT Knoxville. Imagine that. So I would read this. I already took a look at it. So, you know, for time's sake, we're gonna pretend that I read it. And something is helpful, right? So there's some information here about her relationship with her husband, their agreement to live in chastity, and the birth of her child. So maybe I'll take a line from this. Maybe I'll take a line about the confusion about what happened to her last child there. This last paragraph, whether the child then traveled with Marjorie to Jerusalem or was housed with a wet nurse in Venice, or whether it died in infancy and received burial somewhere along the pilgrimage route, or made it back to England with Marjorie, the text offers no further information. So maybe I will take this and I will use that as part of my my argument. I'll quote that and incorporate it in. Don't forget too that this will have to go on your works cited page then. So a lot of them will give you citations here, which you can start with. And I will copy that and save it because we'll want to make sure that we use that, right? Make sure that I'm sharing the right screen with you again. Back to this document. This isn't properly formatted. I'm going to want to double check it against the Purdue OWL, the link that I gave you, but I want to have it here so I know. All right, so now we need another source or two, right? So we'll go back to our web browser and let's see. I want to make an argument about postpartum depression, right? So part of that is I need to know what the symptoms are. Also, I learned that there's not a dash in it, which I did learn and then I forgot. So here, postpartum depression, is the Mayo Clinic a viable source? It absolutely is. So I might look through here and I learned that, look, an extreme mood disorder called postpartum psychosis may also develop after childbirth. Wow, I'm gonna have to read some things about this, right? And I might then quote some of these symptoms and incorporate them into my paper too. Now this is a different kind of citation, but I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to put it on that paper. And I'm going to make sure that I check the Purdue OWL to see how to properly cite that on my works cited page too. Then finally, we're going to look for one more source. And where's the place that we haven't been yet? We haven't been to the library's website and to the library's database. But let's go there. Carson Newman University Library. Wonderful. So I gave you some links about how to use these resources, and I'm just going to show you quickly one very quick way into it. This isn't the best way, but this is a good way to get started. So I'm just going to search Marjorie Kemp and mysticism. This is just a super search. This isn't a specific search at all, just to show you how many things you might be able to find. You got to sign in off campus. And then it'll take you to a list of things that you should have access to. Here's Marjorie Kemp and the Lonely Reader PDF full text. This is excuse me, just a book about Marjorie Kemp. And so what I would do is head over to it, spend some time reading it, of course, and wait until I find something that helps me out. Probably this chapter on despair, where I'm going to read and see that she is drawing attention to the imperfect nature of the situation that she finds herself in at the beginning of the book. And maybe I can use this, I can quote this to help. That's 3 sources. And remember, we want to also be sure that we cite this. And there's a little thing to help you get your citation started there. You want to make sure that you use MLA. And so hopefully you can find something there to support your argument too. That's 3 sources. That's great. That is more than you need. You only need 2 to help back you up. And you want to quote and incorporate those things into your argument. And then you want to make sure that you have your citations done properly too. You want to do a MLA works cited page. There are examples on the website that I gave you. If you still have old textbooks from 101, there should be hand guides on how to do that too. So if you have any questions about that kind of stuff, you should still have access to the Writing Center digitally, if I'm not mistaken. You can also ask me. There are lots of resources online, but you're citing both in text and on your works cited page. Every time that you quote, you need that in-text citation with the last name of the author and the page number. So on your works cited page, you should have the text that you're writing about, right? So if you're writing about Marjorie Kemp, you're going to put that on there. And if you're writing about Othello, you're going to put that on there, etc. And then you're also going to have 2 to 3 other sources on that works cited page that you're using in that paper to write about. So hopefully that gives you some help, some guidelines. And if you have other questions, let me know. But hang in there. We're on the home stretch. I would say good to see you, but I can't see any of you. It's a bummer. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're hanging in there. Miss being in the class with y'all. So with yins. Anyway, take care.